Right. We are live.
And we are live. So what I'm gonna do is tell you a little bit about what we do at Project Osmosis. Then we'll talk about all this beautiful stuff called Afrofuturism. And we just gonna have a good time after that. All right.
What do you get what do you get if we draw the best?
Please, the number one person gets $75 gift card.
I think they don't want to get with the gift card.
It's still money. You don't want the gift card?
She said she knows what she gonna get already.
Oh, you know what you're gonna get already. Okay, I got it.
Oh, it's probably not. It's definitely not $20.
I mean, look, it's your $75. You win, it's all you. Do whatever you want to do. All right.
I want to go shopping.
Well, that's the day. All right, so my name is Mr. Brown, and I am one of the teachers at Project Osmosis. I'm also the director of marketing. So what I do is I work in the community, do events like this, tell kids who want to pursue careers in design. So in Osmosis, our mantra is dreams, self-expression, community. And what I mean by that is like in most of our communities, we don't have designers that people know that live next door. You don't know fashion, big time fashion designers that live down the street, or big time creative director that lives down the street. So what we do for kids who have that type of dream is we bring them into our organization and we help them pursue that career that they want to go into when they grow up. So self-expression is about what we're doing to be doing here today. Giving young artists the opportunity to express themselves and to be seen, recognized, and celebrated at the same time. And the community piece is really about bringing it to a community where they're accepted, where people want to mentor them, give them opportunities for careers, help them get scholarships to colleges, and anything else that they need on their path. One of the biggest challenges we have in our community sometimes is the fact that we have artists who aren't celebrated. And artists aren't always looked at like an esteemed career because traditionally as people of African descent, we have been more so blue collar workers. We always didn't get the opportunity to design a film set. We didn't get the opportunity to design the fashion show. We didn't get the opportunity to be the number one actor on ABC. A lot of these things have been coming to fruition over the years, but as we grow, we still have to make these spaces for our young people to actually excel, be celebrated, and create the new history and opportunities that we need in our community to continue to prosper in this space. So today we're going to talk about this great concept called Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism is about envisioning our futures. You guys seen Black Panther? Yeah? You like it?
Only one. I can't remember.
You can't remember? Do you like it though?
I can't remember.
It was all right. Do you like Black Panther? Yeah. So,
Either you can't remember.
so Black Panther is a great example of Afrofuturism. It's showcasing how our people can live in the future. The concept really came out of the fact that, as African people, we had like a very disheartening experience here in America. They took our language from us, they took our culture from us, they took our technology from us, they took a lot of things from us. So after slavery, we had a hard time adjusting and having spaces. So then it came to creation of things called historical Black colleges and universities. It's like, will you get to it, man? Historical Black colleges and universities, which created these safe spaces for us to flourish and soar. So like we was talking about, young man Chadwick Boseman, he's from HBCU Howard. Howard's one of the top HBCUs around and has been for decades now. But it's these spaces that create these greatness, right? So with Afrofuturism, our goal is to start making sure that we are always forward thinking and envisioning our new futures in the realities in the way that we want them to, and not to be dictated by anybody else but us. So I'm gonna play a short video for you that'll give you a little more in-depth history on Afrofuturism, and then we'll talk a little bit.
Teen, something happened that shattered every truism. Teen, something happened that shattered every truism Hollywood has held dear for the past ever. Black Panther.
I put a screen at the sandbar?
Children of blood and Janelle Monáe, dabbling she was held dear for ever. Black Panther, Africa with a mostly black cast, grossing domestic film of the year, beating even or Take That Thanos. And while many heard the term Afrofuturism before Black Panther took the world by storm, suddenly it solidified Afrofuturism's entry into the mainstream. But while Black Panther is a milestone for Afrofuturism, the sum total of the almost topped the New York list. And Janelle Monáe, in the genre both musically and aesthetically for over a decade, released her third album, Dirty Pictures. I got the t-shirt. It's an amazing album. Please listen to it. But science fiction plus Africa. It's a bit more nuanced than that. Afrofuturism addresses the cultural issues and concerns of the African diaspora through technoculture and science fiction, which is what Black Panther does. But you can't just rap and take cloth and call it Afrofuturism, unless you're John. He can do it. Afrofuturism, like rap, reggae, jazz, blues, and all the music that has come out of the Black experience, is about creating pain, strength, loss, and successes. It is fundamentally rooted in being denied a full and looking to the future to correct that. In his 1994 author and lecturer Mark Derry asks, can a community whose past has been deliberately out and whose energies have subsequently been consumed by the search for legible traces of its history imagine possible futures? And this is where Afrofuturism comes in. At the root of Afrofuturism is Black speculative fiction, which uses science fiction as a stories about Black history and hope. Here's sociologist Alondra Nelson, who convened an early online forum on Afrofuturism. Futurism has emerged as a term to describe analysis, criticism, and cultural production that addresses the intersection between race and technology. Part of the resilience of Black culture life is about imagining a better place. Quote, there is nobody even slightly brown in the Jetsons world. Even the family android sounds white.
Give my answer.
Supposed to be the real world's future, right? Albeit in a silly, humorous form. Is people make up most of the world's population, now as well as back in the 60s when the show was created. So what happened to people in the minds of this show's creator? Are they beneath the clouds where the Jetsons never go? Apocalypse, or maybe a pogrom. Humification of Afrofuturism is relatively new, in literature for over a century. In 1899, Charles W. Chestnut published a collection of short stories called The Conjurer, which discussed resistance and revenge against antebellum cultural African American spirituality. Beginning in 1902, Of One Blood was published serially by Pauline, which talks about a man who goes on an expedition to Ethiopia and discovers a hidden Wakanda. The novel also explores the protagonist's own anti-Blackness and ignorance towards Black history. He goes to Ethiopia and instead finds his own form W.E.B. Du Bois wrote among the first post-apocalyptic short fiction with black subjects called The Comet. A black man named Jim Davis. Man left in New York City and unleashes gases that kill everyone except himself and a white woman named Sarah. Jim rises as a symbol of the savior and hero, a new Adam in this destroyed New York. In of Black's IFS, Itachi, a leading African, explains that the story of the first return of Mark versus pride, establishing a space where Black culture conversation about lead with that Octavia E. While the grande dame of by today, I call her the GOAT personally. Her first book, Pattern Master, in 1976. Butler went on to release science fiction novels with Afrofuturist themes. While she wasn't as appreciated in her time, renewed interest in Afro led to a surge of new readers of her work. Her books are now often included in many high school college required reading lists. Yep. Getting her due reclamation has been Black fiction, but getting and modern works that fall under these. Betty, a Okorafor's Who Fears Death, novella about a girl that overcomes humble beginnings and is offered a place in the most prestigious institutions of higher learning. Steele is a series on Trinity trying to reconcile her heritage with her own natural intelligence and goals. Of Ghost by Rivers as a Campbell Award nominee for Best New Writer in 2018, explores how acts of abuse and violence can shape a culture and people. This generation shift, not only stratified based on race, but also extremely reflective of any nonconformity, especially regard to gender. It coping with the violence of colonialism. Futurist storytellers take speculative the genre by silently creating.
I'm just gonna stop this because the internet connection is terrible and it's weird. So I'll let you ladies just color. If you have any questions, just enjoy yourself. Okay, we just leave it there. You got none?
I'm not exactly. Okay, what?
Not you take your time. Anything come to mind, I'm here.
This is amazing.
I'm glad you like it.
I got my picture.
I see you. Got all that purple.
But I drove the rose yesterday, and it was amazing. So,
Keep making amazing art. That's what you gotta keep doing.
mm,
I'm gonna share with y'all some of this other art they have.
the
Where you don't have to worry about the internet cutting the lady every word off. So the great thing about Afrofuturism is it gives Black artists a space to celebrate their culture, their genius, and the history of their people. So when you see, some of the images that we actually, showed you today, it's really about just creating that space for Black artists to just be artists, to be seen, to be celebrated, and things like that. To like really cast these bigger visions of what the future can be. Because like in most cases, they don't want to make airplanes. They don't want to build certain things, it's like, but in this space of Afrofuturism, it's about letting imagination be free and then opening doors for those opportunities to actually become reality. So, we Black on both sides. Now, the great thing about it, they got everything from movies, science fictions, comic books, video games that are being produced, cartoons, all types of things. They actually have a big conference every year for Afrofuturism. So it's becoming very much a mainstream thing. And it's opening the doors for, actors like, open the door for Chadwick Boseman. And then for Black Panther to be the #1 gross film in actually the Marvel Comics universe. So when you gross $1.34 billion dollars, you own to something. You own to something big, right? And Black Panther 2 is coming out in November.
Mhm.
So that's gonna be, hopefully we're gonna get about 2 billion, 5 billion off of this one. And make a little history around here. But it's an interesting space. We've done programs at Osmosis dedicated to Afrofuturism, where we allow kids to actually create we call it fashion throughout the decades. And they created fashion sets from the 60s up to 2063. So we re-envision the Buffalo Soldiers being like alien hunters and all types of things. So it's a very interesting space, definitely a very interesting space. Now, when you talk about the collage piece that we're going to do today, one of the great things you see in Afrofuturistic art, it has a very diverse collage style. So you see multiple layers in some of the art that's being featured. So I'm going to share with you guys a few things.
In my ability, that really took me to where I am today.
So like you can see on the screen here, it has a very collage-like style. Layers upon layers, depth, texture, present, past, and future, all at the same time in most cases. That's Erica Badu over there. She's a really big Afrofuturist. And then also we was talking about Common, who's another Afrofuturist that people sometimes don't know about. So here are some of the comic books where you see an African superhero celebrated in a different type of way. Very powerful. And then outside the scope of, you happen to be a DC comic artist or a Marvel comic artist. And then I don't know if you all seen Beyonce's Black is King. That's a perfect example of an Afrofuturistic movie that was recently produced. So it's definitely really good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's crazy, it's good though. And then The Matrix is another great example of looking at certain characters who are part of that scheme is Afrofuturist. This is a dynamic space to create it. So the more that we can dream in this space, think in this space, the more that we can start just re-envisioning our futures and making those futures a reality. Because like right now, when you look at things like Akon, the artist, and his Lighting Africa program, that's all about re-envisioning Africa. Taking places that never had water, that never had lights, that never recovered from colonialism, and reinventing these cities. You have a lot of people who are building schools there. And a lot of people here in Chicago are doing things in the Afrofuturistic space in order to create these new realities. Certain things you would think, in 2022, we shouldn't have to still deal with. Having schools that don't have the technology as other schools that are only like 20 minutes away. So these are the type of things that we're looking to start to come back by creating these new ways for our children and and people in our community as a whole to rethink, like, what do you want your community to look like? Not the community that you were given. What is the community that you want? What is the future that you want to see? How do you want to live? What do you want to strive for your children and your grandchildren to have the things they want? Because one of the biggest challenges because of the disenfranchisement of people of color is that in many cases, the whole thing was to, to keep us from dreaming, to keep us from envisioning. They taking ideas that we come up with and they take them to mainstream and make billions off of them, but they don't want anybody to know that you did it. So they can keep away what? That pride. So, I was watching something last week and I thought it was very interesting. They have this new show that's based off Game of Thrones called House of Dragons. And one of the gentlemen in the show was talking about his legacy because his wife was upset because their children had died. And he was like, she said, we need to, give it to somebody that's our blood. But he was like, blood is one thing, but history remembers names. And the one thing that we need to do is reinvent the names that are seen in history for our children by celebrating our artists, by celebrating our technologists, engineers, by celebrating everybody who's doing these great things that the mainstream is hiding from us. I remember I was doing a program for Coca-Cola. I used to do a lot of Black history programs. So I used to work in advertising. And I'm sitting here in a meeting. It's 2009 at the time, right? I'm sitting here in the meeting. We get to talking about candidates, right? And somebody said, well, what about the guy who made Elmo? And all this time, I done seen Elmo. I done bought my nieces Elmo toys, took me Elmo this, all that. Yeah. I didn't even know it was a Black man that created Elmo. Elmo was a doll that nobody even wanted. He was just sitting there, he's like, you do something with it, right? But here goes this one brother who took a puppet that nobody wanted at all and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. So think about that. That's one artist, right, who took a vision and created something for it. Now think about all the artists who are sitting around right now who have these big dreams that no one's supporting. So what happens if we started supporting all our artists, all our thinkers, all our writers, all our people who do things, right? You can't have anything in America without creating something. You're either buying or you're selling. That's it. Those are two things you do. And what we need to do is, through Afrofuturism, create new opportunities for products and services to be developed so that you create jobs, you can innovate technology, you can do different things, all the things that need to be done. But we have to make this a forward-thinking thing. We can't be like an afterthought. Because our first thing is do what? Go to school, get a job at a big company, right? But the truth is, all the big companies only have so many jobs. You don't really start seeing opportunity until you start creating opportunity. We always looking like, okay, I need to knock on the door opportunity, right? But you can't even knock on the door opportunity. You have to be prepared for the opportunity when it arises. Because if an opportunity comes and you're not prepared for it, it's not an opportunity. If you look at, the rise of technology just here in the United States, California is one of the top states for entrepreneurship. And that's because they're creating the new apps, they're creating new computers, they're creating new technology, right? So what happens if we do the same thing in our communities? We got to focus on creating the new companies, creating the next wave of technology. I mean, what? We made the stoplights. We made the refrigerator, right? We made the film that actually goes in these lights. Right before Thomas Edison announced that he was genius. We can just go on talking about just Black brilliance and Black inventions and how we have been disenfranchised. So now with this whole thing with Afrofuturism is, how do we re-enfranchise ourselves? How do we re-envision ourselves, right? So that we can do the things that we need to do for our communities. It's not about, there's always going to be racism. We can't erase racism, right? But what we can do is we can create our own space, right? Just like, Tyler Perry said when he accepted his BET award, right? He said, I had to build my own table. Hollywood didn't want Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry artwork, his stories, it didn't appeal to them. They didn't think it would be a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So they turned Tyler Perry away. Now, Medea is one of the biggest characters in Hollywood, period, right? But you didn't want Medea. because Medea wasn't for them, and they didn't understand Medea, right? But Medea is what? A true reflection of the power of Black culture. One character went from a stage play to movies to TV shows that spun into a series of other TV shows, opportunities for actors who hadn't worked in years, right? He turned Taraji P. Henson's career around, paid her more than people in Hollywood was paying her at the time. And she's one of the top actresses now. Everything from Empire to In Between that she's done, right? But that's because he created the door. He didn't wait on somebody to say, okay, well, Tyler, we think you're good enough. So I'm gonna give you $2 and you gonna make your movie, right? Tyler got his own studios. Anytime that man wanna make a movie, he can make one. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about in regards to Afrofuturism, right? Because what he had was a very big futuristic idea. He made it possible for other young men and women to come behind him and do the same thing. So we seen what happened to Bill Cosby, right? Bill Cosby wanted to buy CBS. They got mad and they put all Bill's business in the street. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Them putting pops went right. But now what you got? Bill Cosby had enough money to do the same thing Tyler Perry had done, and even had more connections to do what Tyler Perry had done. But because Bill couldn't get out of the system of thinking, okay, I need to go and buy a studio built by somebody else. He could have partnered with Tyler Perry, Denzel Washington, all these brothers and sisters in Hollywood. He could have got with them and been built the studio years ago. But Bill didn't have that vision to do so. He's like, well, I'll just buy CBS. And remember, at the time, he had a great show on CBS, still making money, right? But when he stepped over that boundary, there's a way that you're going too far. Right. You want to take $1 billion from us. So before we give it to you, we'd rather hurt you and see you dead. Right? See what happened to Michael Jackson. Bought too many catalogs. They want that catalog back. Like, look, Mike, you to get that money back. So we cannot expect people who hadn't traditionally had love for us to want to do for us and to want to be there for us. We have diversity inclusion programs. We have a lot of great things. We got a lot of good people in the world. But like my father said, there's only two type of people in the world. It's righteous people and unrighteous people. And you can't expect somebody unrighteous to feed you. And that's the mistake we've been making. Going and knocking on the unrighteous door, expecting righteous opportunities. You're not going to get it that way. But if you stay focused on what you want to do in your community and create opportunities the righteous way, then these doors start to open. These realities become real. And then we can have what? A new future for people of African descent. And that's what Afrofuturism is all about. So as you go on your journey, we just can encourage you to dream big, do big, and don't ever give up on your dreams. Because the door opportunity will open for you. But the thing is, we want people not to just be blessed. We want people to work so they could be a blessing. Because it better be a blessing, be blessed, because that means I'm already in a good position already to do whatever it is I need to do for myself and to help others. All right? Okay. So that's all we got, ladies. All right.
Oh, you walking that way. You got you too?
Can't wait to get that.
Can't wait to get that prize.
Yeah, that.
How you know you don't get it?
Because I literally draw the rose without even needing somebody's picture of a rose. Well, I drawed it first and made some details, and then I colored into it, and it was amazing. It looked like a real novel after.
Okay, cool. Well, go ahead and place your entry, young lady. We're gonna see if you get the number one spot.
If I do, I really do want one. Maybe this like drawing a dream, because you might win.
What you mean? We'll see.
But I never really win anything.
Well, guess what? Today may be your lucky day.
If it's not, I don't know why I don't win anything.
No, you just haven't won anything yet. That's all. Asia,
Hmm?
can you do me a favor? Can you put these on some doors?
Those just anywhere?
Yeah, on our doors. Like anywhere to get a class in here that's part of this, let's put it on the door.
So right here, next door, and where else?
What's the other classrooms that Taylor?
So it's only band room, music room, then there's exhibition on the exhibition hall on the third floor, that's it.
The big room.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, then yeah, just those 3 rooms.
Here, there. Okay. Okay.
There you go.
The painter,
You said what?
the painter.
Yeah, that works. You know how I did it on the back?
Yeah.
Yes, well,
Yeah, like you get those. Where's, oh, here it is. Oh, I see.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop this one and go.
Oh, excuse me, yeah.
That's what you was trying